Oh, yeah. Yeah. Get it rolling here. The last thing. Well, it is Wednesday. If you're watching this on time, live, or cool thing about these, there's a lot of people that come in and watch later on, and I appreciate that. That's neat. Good to see people being fed. It is good. Showing up, I think, here. All right. Morning, Amber. Morning, Jason. Unruh. Oh. Morning, Tiffany Sprague. Robin, good morning. Valerie, good morning. We are getting into spring. Good morning, Mara. It's been good to morning, Boyd Pete. Starting to hear the turkeys gobbling and getting after it. Yesterday they were down here by the house. Man, I'm trying to. These doggone glasses. Don't matter what I do. This glares if I don't have that on. That glares if I do. Anyway, the struggles. Morning, Christy. Good morning, Andrea. We are, morning, Sherry. Morning, Brad. Morning, Wyatt. Lots of activities going on in the spring. Getting spraying done, and I needed to be spraying yesterday, but we worked in that barn and got some more stuff done. Morning, Whitney. I'm gonna try to get set up so I can spray right here around the house. I got too big of a place to hire a yard guy, and I got too small of a place to hire the co-op. So I do it myself with I got a pretty good sprayer. It's worked pretty good, but it's boomless, and I need the wind to be just right. Morning, Wendy. Morning, Ashley. Whitney Unruh, you're on live with us. What's the occasion? Tease you a little bit. Morning, Brandon. I'm stuffy this morning. All right, let's give everybody just a minute. We're going to go to Genesis 22. Talk about the end. Well, not the very end, but a later part of the story of Abraham. I don't always get to this part. And getting ready for Easter, I think it's a good deal. Morning, Rhonda. Okay, so let's go to Genesis 22. And one of the things about this this spot in Scripture, and the spot that God took Abraham through, and Isaac, his son, took him through this place, is I can feel my nose wanting to run. This is the place that it ultimately became where the Jerusalem was established, where the temple eventually was established, and the place where Jesus was crucified. there's a parallel there. And so that's kind of cool. But Abraham had spent all this time getting to know God. God took him through a process of building his faith. He and Sarah had this miracle child, Isaac. When God provided this son, it was the answer to their prayers. And God had made all these promises. And now in verse 22, or chapter 22, verse 1, it says, sometime later, after Isaac was born, God tested Abraham's faith. Abraham, God called. Yes, he replied, here I am. Now I want you to think about Abraham and his choice and decision to say, here I am. His choice and decision to say, God, I'm yours. We've been talking about this over the last week or so, about being yielded, being willing to surrender our life to God. Take your son, your only son, yes, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. Go and sacrifice him as a burnt offering on the mountains which I'll show you. Now, this is disturbing in a lot of ways, I know. If you didn't know understand everything, God was not into human sacrifice. In fact, he makes that very clear. That is not to be done. And yet he's asking him. But he's doing it not that he would actually go through with it, but that he would demonstrate. First of all, he set up the same scenario that God would ultimately do with his son, his only son, Jesus. And so that's a big part of that as well. I don't want to get into all the details of all of this story, but there's a couple of things that I want to need to stand out here. See, Abraham knew God well enough by this point that he knew that anything that he gave up, anything that God asked, was not going to eliminate the promise that God had already made. He'd already made that promise. He'd already established that. And so when he gets he takes Isaac, and they go a 3-day journey out to wherever he's going, to where God had told him to go. And in verse 4 it says, on the 3rd day of their journey, Isaac looked up and saw the place in the distance. Stay here with the donkey, Abraham told his servant. The boy and I, now listen to the words here that Abraham speaks. He said, the boy and I will travel a little farther. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. We will return. Notice, he's not just trying to deceive his servant or hide this from his servant, I don't believe. I believe he completely and absolutely knew that God asking him to offer his Isaac, God had already promised that it was going to be through Isaac. Abraham had already learned and knew that there was no way that this was not going to end with Isaac as the promised child to extend this. He knows God well enough. So he didn't know how this is going to work, but he absolutely knew that at the very most extreme that God could raise up Isaac from the ashes if necessary. So he wasn't afraid of losing his son. He was giving him, or he was willing to yield, willing to do whatever God asked, knowing that God was faithful to his promise. And so this obviously is an extreme, and I said even disturbing, if you just keep it in the context of him being asked to sacrifice his son. And Abraham, he gets to the point where he lifts the knife. He ties him up. He lifts the knife. He's ready to do it. And God says, stop. The angel of the Lord came. God says, stop. You've proven you're willing. And so he stops him at that moment. And when he stops him at that moment, and he makes the response here in verse 10, it says, Abraham picked up the knife to kill his son as a sacrifice. And at that moment, the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And notice his reply again was, yes, Abraham replied, here I am. That's what he said over here in the beginning of this. He had developed that relationship with God that he knew whatever God asked him to do, it was going to be okay. God was going to take care of him. He was going to provide. He says, don't lay a hand on the boy. The angel said, don't hurt him in any way, for now I know that you truly fear God, and that you have not withheld from me even your son. He said, you're not letting anything get in the way and separate you then from following God's will. He says, then Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught by its horns in the thicket. So he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering in place of his son. Now notice this, verse 14. Abraham named the place Yahweh Yahweh Jireh, or Yireh. I don't know how to say that. It's Jehovah Jireh is the way we've learned it, but the spelling's a little bit different here. But it says, which means the Lord will provide. He named that place so that he always remembered God will provide. Well, here's the amazing thing. Through history and through time, thousands of years later, Jesus is that lamb. So God will provide, and he provided and did what he asked but didn't require of Abraham. Now here's something to think about. There's times our own dreams, desire, vision, whatever it be, there's times when we need to be willing, and God may ask us to lay something on the altar, so to speak, give something that might separate us from God's best. Being willing to, he doesn't always require it. That's what we got to understand. But our willingness to, here's the thing, if we give something and God, it is taken, or he doesn't stop us from removing that thing from our life, separating ourselves from it, whatever it be. He may give that back in a better way, and our life will be better as a result. Sometimes something has to die, a vision has to die, and let God revive it in a way. Sometimes it's when we give things up and we say, God, I'm tired of fighting this, or God, I just give it to you. Maybe he asks it of us. And when we say, okay, God, I'm just going to trust you with this, I'm going to give this to you. When we do that, I'm telling you, God will absolutely bring the right thing back around in a better way. Whatever it is, we shouldn't want anything, and I don't want anything that isn't of God in my life, and I don't want to put anything before the Word and before God and his vision, his plan, his purpose for my life. Because wherever he has us is the best place we can be. Sue and I chose, when we surrendered our lives to Jesus Christ, we said we're never going to let a job, a paycheck, a house, a whatever it be, hold us. We're going to follow God like Abraham. And God has, not everybody's going to be required to leave and go and do the things that we've done. But the wonderful thing is when we offered up some of those things at different times, it was horses, or it was there was a time when we left and sold cows, did different things. Anytime we did those things, God just showed up and has restored those things at a later time, brought those things back around, and where they are so much more of a blessing. Man, I tell you what, God provided at every point in our life the house or the whatever we needed, and it's been pretty awesome. So, trusting God, developing a faith that says, "Yes, here I am," If we can say, yes, here I am now, God, what do you require of me? And being willing to offer that. Sometimes, as I said, sometimes it's just our heart being willing to say, God, I'll give that to you. Sometimes he hands it right back. Sometimes it goes away, and then he restores the things that are. Here's the good thing, is he doesn't just send it back, he'll send it back multiplied, better. It'll be better than it ever was. So as I have done that and walked that out in my life, I've seen God do that over and over again. So walk today just being blessed. Trust God in all that you do. Ask God, is there anything, and offer it all up. So I don't want to do that. He won't take anything that's good, and his way is always better. Amen. Well, be blessed today and go get them for Jesus. Love y'all. Morning, Bobby. Morning, Ron Wade. Morning, Scott. Jared. Good morning, Sean Summers. Good morning, Tiffany. Crew, Tyson and Crystal. Good morning. Well, it is a good Wednesday, man. Good Wednesday. This stuffy nose. Ugh. Anyway, y'all be blessed.